NFC North, the Lions, as we know, did not live up to expectations last year. They lost Ben Johnson, they lost Aaron Glenn to head coaching jobs, and they finished the year at just 9-8, just missed the playoffs. So entering this season, Dan Campbell wants the team to get back their edgy mindset. This was a great soundbite.
Everybody wants talent. All want talent, but it's always nice to have a little bit of saltiness to you over the talent that lacks saltiness, because that's kind of what we were in 22. You know, that's a little bit of, and part of 23. We had talent, but we had some salty guys, man, and we were highly competitive, and we were willing to make it work, figure it out, and so just a little bit of that edge back.
Well, also a lot of his guys have gotten paid.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a part of it. Is that it's like we just said about Oklahoma City. When you win a championship, it's not that they don't care about the regular season, but they pick 5 or 6 nights, last night being one of them, as kind of a showcase to make sure the Lakers know they're not in our satellite, right? They're not in our sphere. And I think, this team was young and hungry, and now Jahmyr Gibbs is still young and hungry, but, a lot of these guys, you get a few injuries, you make money, you have families. So part of being salty is youth and not winning, so I know what he's saying, but I don't think, I think the big issue, Rachel, Ben Johnson is one of one.
Yeah.
And I think when Atlanta lost Kyle Shanahan, the team the next year wasn't the same. Sometimes you just have a great employee, they leave, you can't replace them. Yeah, and that was Ben.
This is going to be a prove-it year for Dan Campbell, right? Like, how much of this was him and how much of this was you? I think there's maybe some complacency after you do well. Like, the Lions players thought, oh, we got here, now we can just get here next year without as much effort. Saltiness is one thing. Also, I think they're going to have one of the easiest schedules in the NFL next season, so that'll help too,
Okay, it's not complacency. Oh my gosh. And it's not saltiness, and it's not money. It's none of this. I don't know, this is so perfect because literally I just did a video and I went on a whole rant, and I'm not going to show you it. You can watch it. It's about the Chicago Bears. And my whole rant is actually so perfect because it's the opposite about what we're talking about with the Detroit Lions, and that's actually where the problem is. Okay. That's actually where the problem ends up being, okay? 'Cause first off, you have people like Amon-Ra St. Brown who got paid, and yet he's messing up his ankle, and yet he still wants to get back out there. And he's out there competing even in a game that's meaningless and all of that. Jared Goff's getting paid, and they're still out there like everyone's still out there trying to work as hard as they can, etc., etc., etc. It's not a matter of you needing more salt, okay? Right? Like, I get it. The saltiness and getting that edge. That's not what held the Lions back last season. If they just had a little bit more of that edge like they did in 2023, then they would be a Super Bowl contender. No. That's not what it. Their defense continues to be a legitimate liability because of injuries, for whatever reasons why. The O-line hasn't been as good as it has been in the past. It's not just because of the edge, okay? Not just because of we have an edge. You didn't have an edge from getting rocked in the Indy as the number 1 seed at home in Detroit. Of course you did. Like, come on, stop. Or now that you're winning, you're complacent, you're paid. That's not the case. Let's just look at the most important offensive figures on that team. Goff, Gibbs, Montgomery. Well, I guess back, it was Montgomery. But Amon-Ra St. Brown, I'm not they just look complacent right now. That's not the case. That's not the case. Defense liability, O-line not as dominant as it has been in the past, and they did not have solutions to the problems offensively. And they are still too dependent on converting 4th downs to be good, to win games. The 4th downs have to be gravy. They have to be cherries. But too many games came down to last year where if they converted the 4th downs, they win. If they don't, they lose. You can't have it. You can't have it. Even a game that the score didn't even look like that against the Kansas City Chiefs, and that really punctuated that point to me because it was something that I'd said about the Lions for a little bit dating back maybe 2024, I forget exactly, but definitely before the Chiefs came. But it was just like, this is a perfect example because the score definitely look I think what was it? 31-17. Whatever it was, the score didn't make it feel close, but it was just kind of like if you really look into how the game unfolded, if you converted that fourth down, everything changes and you're in a great spot to win that game. But you didn't, and now you lost convincingly. And the games it can't be that way. It cannot be that way. And you can't keep saying, well, our defense isn't as good, so we got to be more aggressive on fourth. And it's like, no, that sounds good in theory. That has clearly not worked in practice. And it doesn't even mathematically make sense, either, cause you're putting also more of a burden on your defense that's already injured or not playing good at the whatever it may be and depending on what week and time we're discussing. So, like, I hate that idea, either. But it's just like, they had no business competing with the Los Angeles Rams the one game, and yet like they were again. That game kind of got pretty crazy, and, you were giving up fourth down conversions to the Los Angeles Rams, but it was just like, I don't look at them and just say, oh, well, they don't have enough edge or they're complacent or, they got paid, and now we don't really see the same energy from them. That's nonsense. It's nonsense. And I talk about this literally all the time. You need solutions to the problem. Of course you need someone that can identify the problem, and then you need solutions to the problem. And that's why I said on my whole rant about the Chicago Bears, and I said, you should love this. You should love this because you have Ben Johnson coming out here saying that I might have a 100 throw highlight reel that I'm going to show to Caleb Williams of the times that he needs to be more accurate. Like, identifying a problem, and we're reaching to get to a solution to solve that problem. It's not a matter of Caleb just needs a little bit more salt or he needs more of edge. That's not it. That's not it. That's not the reality. And I know that because that's why Dan Campbell took over play calling. It wasn't just like they just needed more edge or better execution. So, again, I love Dan Campbell's messaging, and I get inspired by it. I get motivated by it. I've told you guys this a million times. I still got like random clips saved and bookmarked on my phone from, especially Amon R. St. Brown like screaming saying, I'm built for this. And listening to Dan Campbell I do get fired up. And there were times, especially throughout the course of the season, and you're hearing random sound bites, and I'm a human being, so sometimes I feel great, sometimes I feel low. And there's times that I'll hear something from Dan Campbell, the Detroit Lions, I get fired up. I get motivated. So, I'm the perfect message for that. I love receiving those types of things. But you need solutions to the problem. You need solutions to the problem, and so sometimes that gets overshadowed too much, and that frustrates me personally. That frustrates me. And then even when they I rightfully so identify, well, maybe it's not just saltiness. But then you start to say talking about money and, complacency. That's not the Lions' fault. That's not the issue with the Lions. So, that drives me even more crazy cause now this is what I always talk about. You get farther and farther away from reality. You get farther and farther from actually evaluating what the reality of the situation is. It's like once you mess up 1 + 1 = 2, now you're messing up 2 + 3, 7 + 4. You mess up everything. Once you mess up the top part of the equation, even though your math is correct, you still find yourself getting farther and farther away. You can get to do the math completely correct, but you mess up one part of an equation, and you could say, x = 75. And it's bro, x = 2. But it's look, I did all of this right. I did all of the steps right. And you say you did, but you made this one mistake, and that derailed you massively. So, you're not even close to the right answer. Like, that's what happens. That's what happens, and it's very easily. And so, again, I'm not saying that Dan Campbell needs to give like all the right answers in the little whatever the heck the wherever all the coaches were, and they're all getting interviewed, and I forget whatever it was. I don't even pay attention to those types of events and those types of things because it's like I said, it only matters so much when it's all said and done. But like, that is the stuff that I'm always constantly hearing about teams, you know, like with Dan Campbell and the Detroit Lions. And after a year like that, it's the wrong conversation. It's the wrong conversation, and then it's the wrong interpretation of that conversation. So, yeah. It's like, I am salty. I got the edge. I'm not paid. I didn't get paid. I want the millions of dollars. I'll tell you, I won't lose that edge, man. Like, are you kidding me? I'll be back at it, and I'll be ready to go. But it's just like, And so, I went again on that whole rant about the Chicago Bears, and I was like, if you're a Chicago Bears fan, if you're a Caleb fan, you should love this. I said, you should go to sleep easy knowing that you have someone that is holding this team accountable, that they are going to do the work. That they are going to get after it. And it's like, that's what you want. That's what you need. Accountability, accountability, accountability. But it's not just accountability. It's accountability with solutions to the problem and problem identification. You need that. You need it all. And so, that's what I just want to see more from the Detroit Lions. I'm not saying that they're not on that path. I'm not saying that they're not doing that. They're trying to, hiring new coaches and whatnot. Like, and I think that's all good, all fair game, but like we are not going to talk about that like, oh, well, they're just kind of complacent or this or that or Nick, right? We'll try to come out and say like, oh, I think that it's never been able to, bounce back from them losing in 2023. It's like that's all nonsense. It's not money. It's not having the scars of 2023 or this, not that they're not salty and not none of that. I just wholeheartedly disagree with all of that nonsense. This team, give them the solutions, identify the problems, and they will compete. They will be great. They will get it done. Stop having the defense become a complete liability. And you can say, well, it's injuries and this, and find a way through that. Figure that out. Put extra money. Get more depth. I don't know what to tell you. I'm not the GM, but whatever you're doing is wrong. Whatever you're doing right now that it's not working. Figure out a new way. Change the way how you have practices. Change the way how you prepare your team going, in the off season. Change strength and condition. I don't know what to tell you. You got to figure something out. You got to cause when it keeps happening, you got to find something out. Spread out the money, less money, concentrate it in one area, get more depth. Get more B's rather than a couple A's and then drops off to C's and D's. Like again, I don't know the exact answer. It's not my job to figure out the solution. But you got to figure it out. You got to figure it out. So, those are the conversations. Those are the things that matter to me. Not the amount of salt, in the Detroit Lions locker room. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about the Detroit Lions? And kind of what they need to get back to being that dominant, intimidating, scary, relentless team. Let me know your thoughts. I read every single comment. So, do you agree with me or disagree with me? Either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. Please do consider subscribing. We're building an amazing community here and I absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all generally feel connected to. Something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. It's a really nice help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.